Hi guys, so I've been saying for some time that the Tories have a long-term plan to dismantle the NHS, which is a respected healthcare system the world over. They've been against it since the beginning, and they've been destroying it over the last number of years in two ways. First, the media war against the NHS. This is where the right-wing press run articles in their rags of papers suggesting that the NHS is broken. They will try to drive a wedge between the public and medical staff. Then you have right-wing think tanks who are appearing more and more often in the media running down the NHS, saying that it's past its use-by date and needs to be reformed, which is code word for privatisation. Why? Because their backers want a slice of the cake, and it's a very lucrative cake. The government's underfunding of the NHS has real consequences. However, while the pandemic has dealt a massive blow to the healthcare system, it now struggles to recruit the staff it needs, meaning more stress on the existing workers and longer waiting times for patients. First, I want to show you this clip, kindly uploaded by Gary Sitton on Twitter, of his local A&E a few days ago. And then I want to show you Boris Johnson in the House of Commons on Wednesday.
We've currently got 170 patients in the department, that's 170, quite a few. There are 90 patients waiting to be seen at the moment. That's 90.
There are 90 patients waiting to be seen, she says.
90 of you are still waiting to be seen. Our current wait time for a doctor is 7.5 hours.
The current waiting time for a doctor is 7.5 hours. You know, people are going to spend days, literal days in A&E, it seems.
I will estimate that by the time I go home in the morning at 8 o'clock, some of you will still be here waiting for a doctor, because the wait will get up to 12 or 13 hours. I will expect that. There are currently no beds in the trust. We're trying to make some space if we can, but if people are admitted, there is a chance they might stay in A&E for the night. So we will make you comfortable, we will do our best, and we'll look after you, but please.
And there you heard it. She said, look, we don't have any beds, but people will have to stay here overnight, and we'll try and make it as comfortable as possible for you. The staff are at breaking point, and they're still looking out for their patients. They're still trying to make patients who have not yet been admitted as comfortable as possible.
Please don't expect that you'll be going straight to a ward, because that may not happen. If anyone is feeling particularly unwell whilst they're here, please let the girls' reception know, and then escalate to us. We'll make sure that officers do whatever we can do. Anyone here is a relative, can I ask you to leave? Because obviously we're running out of space. We're still trying to social distance as much as we can, and this is not social distance at all. So any relatives that are here, if I can ask you to go, unless the person you're with has any kind of dementia, anything like that, or is a minor.
So first of all, I want to say thank you to Gary for uploading this video. And you can see here the stresses that the NHS is under. They don't have the staff available. They're dealing with the impact of the pandemic, but also they can't actually get access to the staff they need because of Brexit, because the ending of freedom of movement meant that many staff that they relied on from abroad can't get back to work in the UK. They're no longer wanted by the British government, by the Home Office. Now, this is the reality. Boris Johnson is living in a different reality, it seems.
Using our economic strength to invest in doctors and nurses and get people on the wards, get people, giving people their scans and their screens and their tests in a more timely manner, and taking our NHS forward. We are on target, Mr. Speaker, thanks to this government, to recruit 50,000 more nurses. Thanks to the investments, I've just got to repeat this because he doesn't seem to have heard it so far. Thanks to the investments that party opposed. Patsy, can I explain why they opposed them?
It's very frustrating to listen to this guy. The lies, the rubbish that comes out of his mouth on a daily basis. The idea that, there's not, we're dealing with this problem. Yeah, this is a problem that has existed before the pandemic. Johnson will always say it's the pandemic, it's the pandemic. We're dealing with the consequences of the pandemic. But this has been going on for a long time. The Tories are not interested in fixing this problem. What they want is people to go private. That's the solution here. If we run down the NHS enough, people will just get tired of it, and they'll either support it becoming a private entity, being privatized, or they will just go private themselves. And Keir Starmer, in a moment, gives an example of such a scenario.
Keir Starmer. Mr. Speaker, raising taxes because you failed to grow the economy isn't a plan for the NHS. And everyone sitting behind him knows it. Members of this cabinet admit that Conservatives left our health system wanting and inadequate when the pandemic hit. He's been in power for 3 years and things are getting worse, not better. Fewer GPs, more waits for cancer tests, buildings still crumbling, and he's changing the rules to cover up his failure. And there is a real human pain as a result. Today I spoke to Hamza Semakula. Hamza is 20 and he plays semi-professional football for Hendon. He tore his ACL earlier this year. Because of the 2-year wait for surgery, he had to crowdfund for a private operation.
Shameful.
I don't know if you could hear someone said shameful. So this young person couldn't wait any longer, because obviously if you have a particular injury and you leave it, it will just get worse. So he had to crowdfund for it. Go on the internet and ask people to give donations so he could go privately. This is not a solution. This is the solution that the Tories want. There, problem solved. Collected some money and went private. There, what's the problem?
I also spoke to Akshay Patel. Last year, his mother woke up unable to breathe. Akshay called 999 6 times. In his last call, he said, "I rang an hour ago for an ambulance as she had difficulty breathing, and now she's dead." Even he must admit that Akshay, Bina and Hamza deserve better than a wanting and inadequate government utterly unable to improve our NHS.
Now, I just want to add one point here. This is Keir Starmer's last question. And obviously, whenever it's the last question, Boris Johnson wants to respond in an aggressive manner. He wants to grandstand. And Keir Starmer has just read out 2 heartbreaking stories. One of a young man who had to crowdfund in order to get surgery, and another member of his constituency who called an ambulance, and it was too late. And wait to hear how Boris Johnson responded to that.
Mr. Speaker, I think everybody in the House has sympathy with Akshay and the other constituents and their families and the other constituents that he mentions, Mr. Speaker, and I share their feelings. But when you look at what this government is doing, the massive, and I must say this to him, we are making colossal investments in our NHS. We are cutting waiting times. We are raising standards.
See, he couldn't stop at the sympathy. He had to add a but. But listen to what we're doing. Listen to how we're succeeding. Listen to how we're winning. In this clip, as I showed you before, a 7.5 hour waiting time. Some people will have to wait overnight. He just doesn't care. He and his backbenchers and his frontbenchers just don't care. Now people will ask, why do I care about this? Because I think the NHS is something that needs to be emulated. Something that needs to be used as a model for other countries around the world. I think it's the gold standard. And unfortunately, it's failing at the moment because it's failing by design. There are people who want it to fail. There are people who want it to fail for ideological reasons, and there are people who want it to fail for economic reasons. because they are perhaps backed by some industries that decided if it's privatized, we can make a killing. We can make a significant amount of money. And if each part is sold off, sometimes to the highest bidder, sometimes to the lowest bidder, if it's somebody who's connected to the Conservative Party, that's the way it's going, and that needs to be stopped. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.